A waitress buys a meal for a homeless boy, unaware that a billionaire is quietly watching from the corner. Her small act of kindness changes everything. What happens next is beyond what she could ever imagine. The story begins in the bustling downtown area as the sun sinks lower into the horizon, casting an orange glow over the world. The air is thick with the scent of fried food from nearby street vendors, and the noise of city life, once overwhelming, now fades into a muted hum. The lights of the city blink on one by one, but for all its beauty and vibrancy, there is an undercurrent of sorrow that permeates the streets. In the midst of this chaotic world, a small, humble diner stands on the corner of the street. Its neon sign flickers intermittently, but the warmth from within beckons. The windows are steamed up from the constant flow of hot food and the bustle of busy patrons. Inside, the atmosphere is cozy, a blend of familiarity and comfort. The clinking of plates and the gentle hum of conversation fills the air, the sounds of everyday life playing in the background. But in one corner of the diner, there's a pause, a stillness that doesn't quite belong. Behind the counter stands a young woman, a waitress named Lily, her hands trembling slightly as she arranges the dishes in front of her. The soft rattle of cutlery and the constant flow of orders should have brought her comfort, but instead, her mind lingers on the scene outside. Through the window, just beyond the diner's entrance, she notices a young boy, no older than 10, standing against the cold evening air. His clothes are ragged, his shoes barely holding together, and dirt stains his pale skin. His eyes, wide and filled with an unsettling mix of hopelessness and longing, scan the faces of the passers-by, as if searching for something he cannot name. He is a figure that stands apart from the world, invisible to most, but to Lily, he is impossible to ignore. Her heart tightens in her chest, a deep, aching pull that causes her to hesitate. She watches as he tucks his hands into the pockets of his oversized jacket, trying to shield himself from the wind. His gaze flickers to the warm interior of the diner, then shifts away, as though he knows he doesn't belong in such a place. She can almost feel his hunger, the gnawing emptiness that goes far beyond mere physical need. There is a quiet desperation in his eyes, a sense of abandonment that speaks louder than any words could. Lily's breath catches in her throat as she watches the boy. Something inside her stirs, an overwhelming, visceral urge to do something, anything, to ease the suffering she sees in him. She glances over her shoulder, noticing the rest of the diners completely unaware of the child outside. They are lost in their own world, absorbed in their conversations, their meals, their lives. But not Lily. She sees him, and in that moment, it is as though everything else in the world fades away. Without thinking, she grabs a sandwich from the counter and pours a steaming cup of coffee. Her hands shake, not from fear, but from a deep, overwhelming empathy that is almost too much to bear. She takes a steadying breath, wipes her hands on her apron, and walks toward the door. The cool air hits her face as she steps outside, the chill of the evening creeping in through the fabric of her clothes. She hesitates for a moment, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders, but then she steps closer to the boy. For a moment, their eyes meet. The world seems to pause, the noise of the city dissolving into silence. She sees the boy, truly sees him, and in his gaze, she feels something she's long forgotten. The possibility of compassion, the power of connection. He doesn't say a word, but his eyes speak volumes. He's startled by the kindness, unsure of what to make of it, and in that brief moment, Lily sees a flicker of hope in his eyes, hope that has long been absent from his life. Lily holds out the sandwich and the cup of coffee to him, her voice soft, almost trembling. "I don't have much," she says, "but I hope this helps." The boy looks at the food, then back at her, his eyes widening in disbelief. He takes a tentative step forward, his hands shaking as he reaches for the food, his fingers brushing against hers. In that brief touch, a connection forms, a shared understanding of the pain they both carry. The boy's lips tremble, and for a moment, Lily fears that he might not be able to accept her gift. But then, A single tear slips down his cheek, and he looks at her with a gratitude that words cannot express. Lily's heart aches in her chest. How could anyone abandon a child like this? How could the world be so cold and indifferent? She feels the weight of all the suffering in that moment, the injustice of it all. But there is nothing she can do to change the world. All she can do is offer this small act of kindness, and so she does. With a final glance, she turns and begins to walk back into the diner. Her steps are slow, her mind racing. She wonders if this small act, this simple gesture, will make any difference in the boy's life. But as she walks inside, she realizes that perhaps the most important thing is not whether the boy's life will change, but that for just a moment, he was seen, he was acknowledged, he was cared for. And that, in itself, is a rare gift. What Lily doesn't know, what she cannot possibly imagine, is that her small act of kindness has been witnessed by someone else, a man sitting quietly in the corner of the diner, his gaze fixed on her as she steps back inside. He is a man who has seen it all, the opulence of wealth, the coldness of high society, the emptiness of everything that money can buy. And yet, as he watches Lily, something stirs inside him. The way she cared for that boy, the way she gave without hesitation, without thought of reward, it strikes a chord deep within him. He remains hidden in the shadows, not wanting to interrupt the quiet moment between the two strangers. His fingers, still clasped around a coffee cup, tremble slightly. There is something about this woman that he cannot shake, a sense of purity, of selflessness, that is so rare in the world he inhabits. He watches, and in that moment his life begins to change. But Lily has no idea. She has no idea that she is being watched, that her simple act of kindness has already sparked something far larger than she can possibly imagine. As the night continues, the world outside seems to move in a blur. The streets buzz with activity, but inside the diner, the air is thick with a quiet tension. Lily continues to serve, her smile still present, but it is a fragile thing, cracked by the weight of the world she carries. She tries to focus on her work, pushing aside the image of the young boy's tear-streaked face. But the moment lingers, the taste of compassion still fresh on her lips. The gesture, as small as it was, has shaken her more than she anticipated. But there is something about her that makes people think she is impervious to the struggles of life. Her demeanor suggests that she is a woman who is always upbeat, someone who doesn't let the world get her down. And yet, beneath the surface, behind the bright smile, Lily is broken. Lily's past is a storm of memories that rattle her soul. She was once a girl full of hope, of dreams too big for the world she knew. She fell in love with a man who made her feel like she could conquer anything. He promised her everything, the life they would build together, the future they would share. And for a while she believed him. For a while it felt real. But that dream shattered when he left her. She can still hear his words echo in her mind, cruel and biting. "You'll never be enough," he had said, his voice flat, indifferent. The pain of those words stung more than any physical blow. In that moment, she realized that the love she had given had never been returned. He walked away, leaving her behind, discarded and forgotten, as if she had never mattered in the first place. The memories of that betrayal are a scar she can never erase. They are a constant presence in her life, the ghosts of her past haunting her every step. She remembers the first time she was discarded like trash. It was not just the man who left her. It was the world. No one was there to pick up the pieces. No one cared enough to stay. She was left alone, drowning in her own self-doubt. The rejection didn't stop there. It came again, and again, each time a reminder of her worthlessness. After the man who had promised her everything left, there were others, friends who turned their backs when she needed them most. Family members who made her feel like a burden and who never once offered a hand when she was at her lowest. Lily's life was a series of cruel rejections, each one adding to the pile of self-loathing that weighed down on her heart. Every rejection felt like a personal attack, a confirmation that she would never be enough for anyone. And so, she began to believe it. She stopped hoping for better, stopped expecting anyone to love her. She gave what she had to others because it was easier to pour herself into the lives of strangers than to admit that she had nothing left to give herself. But the pain didn't go away. No matter how much she tried to distract herself, the loneliness always crept in. She had spent so long chasing after something that would never come that she had forgotten what it meant to value herself. As the night wears on and the diner empties, Lily feels the heavy weight of her thoughts. She watches the last few patrons trickle out, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. Her shift is over, and she quickly tidies up, eager to escape the quiet that will follow her into her small apartment. When the diner finally closes, she locks the door behind her and steps into the cold night air. The streets are empty now, the city no longer buzzing with life. She walks alone, her footsteps soft on the pavement. Every step feels heavy, as if the weight of the world is pressing down on her chest. Her feet drag along the sidewalk, and the familiar ache of exhaustion settles into her bones. The loneliness is suffocating. She can feel it in the way the wind bites at her skin, in the way the streetlights flicker as if they, too, are trying to fight off the darkness. She tries to ignore it, but it follows her, wrapping itself around her like a cloak. The emptiness of her existence is almost unbearable. She wishes she could disappear into the night, as if her absence would somehow be less painful than the constant reminder of her own solitude. As she reaches her apartment building, she stops for a moment. The sight of the crumbling structure before her fills her with a sense of dread. It's not much, just a small, dimly lit space in a rundown building, but it's all she has. She steps inside, the silence greeting her like an old friend. It's a silence that screams louder than any noise could, a silence that fills every corner of her life. Inside her apartment, there is no warmth, no love, no support, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the faint flicker of the broken light in the corner. The walls are bare, the furniture sparse and worn. It's a place where dreams go to die, where the echoes of lost hope bounce off the walls, reminding her of everything she has lost. Lily sits on the edge of her bed, staring at the wall in front of her. She wonders if her kindness, the small gesture she gave to the boy earlier, is enough. Was it enough to matter? She looks at her reflection in the cracked mirror across from her, her face pale and tired. She sees the woman she once was, the hopeful, optimistic girl who believed that love could save her, and she wonders where she went wrong. Tears begin to fall, one after another, as the weight of her abandonment presses heavily on her chest. She feels as though she is suffocating, as if the world has closed in around her. Her kindness, her empathy, was it ever enough? Or would she always remain invisible to the world, just another discarded soul, left to wander in the shadows? Lily's body trembles as she lies in the dark, her tears soaking the pillow beneath her. She wonders if she will ever find a place where she belongs, a place where she will no longer feel abandoned and rejected. But deep down, she knows that the answers she seeks aren't in the world around her. They must come from within. And yet, as the night presses on, she can't help but wonder, was the kindness she showed the boy just another fleeting moment in a life full of heartache, or could it be the start of something different? The answer is elusive, lost in the silence of her apartment, just out of reach. Lily stares at the message on her phone, her hand trembling. The words blur in front of her eyes, but she can still make them out. Hey, I have something for you. She doesn't even know why she bothers to answer. The last thing she needs is another reminder of her failures, another person telling her that she's not enough. But she opens the message anyway, a futile hope blooming in her chest that perhaps, just maybe, this time things will be different. The message that follows shatters her once again. Her ex, the man who had promised her the world, who had once made her feel like she was everything to him, had moved on. Her former friend, the one she trusted with her heart, had seen him with another woman. The sting of betrayal hits her like a physical blow, the kind that takes your breath away. It's as if her whole world has come crashing down around her once more. She wants to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but all she can do is stand there, frozen in disbelief. Her ex had sworn that she was the only one for him, that nothing would ever come between them. They had shared dreams, whispered promises in the dark, and believed in a future together. And now, just like before, she is left in the wake of another person's abandonment. She feels the familiar ache of loneliness creeping back in, consuming her from the inside out. It's like she's been here before, stuck in this never-ending cycle of betrayal, rejection, and self-doubt. The phone slips from her fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud. She doesn't even hear it. Her chest feels tight, and the tears come, unbidden and relentless. She stumbles to her kitchen, her movements slow and heavy, like she's wading through thick mud. The kitchen light flickers above her, casting a sickly yellow glow on the worn countertops. Her hands clutch the edge of the sink, as if it's the only thing keeping her from falling apart entirely. "Why does everyone leave me?" she whispers into the empty room, her voice cracking. The question hangs in the air, heavy and painful. She wonders if there is something wrong with her, if she is somehow cursed, destined to be alone and rejected by everyone she loves. She hears the echoes of the past in her mind, the voices of people who walked away, who abandoned her when she needed them most. Her family, her friends, her lovers, they all seemed to vanish when the going got tough. The humiliation, the pain of being left behind, feels as fresh as it did the first time. She can almost hear their words now, the ones that cut her deepest, the ones that made her believe she wasn't worthy of love, of loyalty, of kindness. "You're not good enough," they had said. "You'll never be enough for anyone." And she had believed them. How could she not? Over time, their words had become her truth, her reality. She wipes the tears from her face with the back of her hand, but they keep coming, flooding her vision until she can hardly see. Her heart aches, not just from the loss of her ex, but from the weight of the years of emotional neglect and abuse she's endured. Every rejection, every slight, every cruel word, it all comes rushing back to her now, and she feels like she's drowning in it. Lily sinks to her knees on the cold tile floor, her body trembling with the intensity of her grief. She feels small, insignificant, as though she's been erased from the world, left to suffer in silence. She's so tired of fighting for people who don't care, tired of giving everything to relationships that only leave her empty. Tired of being invisible, tired of being the one who always gets hurt. The silence in the apartment is suffocating. It presses down on her chest, making it harder to breathe. She thinks about the homeless boy she saw earlier, the one she had tried to help. For a moment, it had felt like she mattered, like she was doing something good, something meaningful. But now, in the aftermath of this new betrayal, it feels like a fleeting, insignificant moment in a life full of pain. She wonders if she'll ever feel truly seen, truly loved. She wants to believe that she's capable of more than just giving, more than just surviving, but the weight of her past keeps her tethered to the ground. It's hard to see a way out when everything she's known has taught her that she's not enough. Just as the tears begin to slow, her phone buzzes again. It's a message from the same former friend. She almost ignores it, too exhausted to deal with anything else. But curiosity wins out, and she opens it, expecting more bad news. What she reads next catches her off guard. "I don't know if this will help, but I want to tell you something I just found out. The guy who saw your ex with someone else? Well, he's been keeping tabs on you for a while, watching you, making sure you're okay. He's not some random guy. He's the billionaire. And he's been quietly observing your kindness, your generosity, your heart." Lily stares at the message in disbelief. A billionaire? Watching her? She doesn't know what to make of it. It's hard to imagine anyone of that caliber paying any attention to someone like her, a waitress struggling to make ends meet. But something in her gut tells her that there's more to this story than she realizes. Her phone buzzes again, this time with a simple question. "Are you okay?" Lily holds the phone in her trembling hands, uncertain of how to respond. She has no idea who this billionaire is or what his intentions might be. But for the first time in a long time, she feels something stir inside her, a flicker of hope, something she hasn't felt in years. Could this be the beginning of something new? Or was this just another cruel twist of fate? As Lily sits there in her apartment, the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders, she realizes that, for the first time in a long while, she doesn't have all the answers. And maybe, just maybe, that's okay. The night passes slowly, the hum of the city outside muffling the clatter of plates and glasses in the diner. Lily moves through her shift mechanically, her mind still spinning with the painful revelations from earlier. The tears have dried, but the ache remains, heavy in her chest. She goes through the motions, greeting regulars with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, refilling coffee cups, taking orders, and clearing empty plates. But inside, she is a shell of the person she once tried to be. She doesn't know that in the far corner of the diner, a figure watches her, hidden in the shadows of a dimly lit booth. The man is dressed in a sharp suit, the kind that only someone with an excess of wealth could afford. He sits in silence, his eyes never leaving Lily as she moves around the diner. His face is unreadable, but his gaze lingers with an intensity that would make most people uneasy. Yet, Lily remains oblivious to his presence, lost in her own world of pain and regret. The billionaire, known in the business world as Nathaniel Blackwood, has seen it all. He's been to the highest peaks of success, rubbing shoulders with world leaders, celebrities, and other influential figures. Money, power, and prestige are things that come naturally to him. But what Nathaniel has never experienced, what he's never truly understood, is the kind of raw humanity that Lily exudes, the kind of kindness that expects nothing in return, the kind of selflessness that defies the cynical world he's grown accustomed to. He watches as she steps outside during her break, her eyes scanning the street for something, or perhaps someone. It's in that moment that she sees him, again. The homeless boy who had been outside earlier. He's sitting in the same spot, his face hidden in his hands as he curls up on the cold pavement. Lily's heart aches at the sight. Without a second thought, she walks over to him, crouching down to offer him a sandwich and a cup of coffee, her hands trembling as she hands it to him. She doesn't say much, just the same simple words, "I don't have much, but I hope this helps." Nathaniel observes from the corner, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. He feels an odd tug at his chest, something he hasn't felt in years. Compassion. He's spent so much of his life building walls, surrounding himself with people who want something from him, that he's forgotten what it means to truly see someone. But here, watching Lily in her quiet act of kindness, something shifts inside him. He doesn't know why he's drawn to her, why he's so compelled to watch. Perhaps it's the contrast between her and the people he's used to, rich, entitled, and indifferent. Maybe it's the way she doesn't expect anything in return, the way she gives without hesitation, without any thought of what she might lose. Or maybe, just maybe, it's the vulnerability in her eyes, the same vulnerability he's buried deep within himself for years. As the night wears on, Nathaniel remains in his booth, lost in thought. He's aware of the power he wields, the influence he has over others. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, he feels small. There's something about Lily's simplicity, her unassuming presence, that makes him question everything he's built. He's never been a man to believe in fate or destiny, but he can't help but feel that their paths are somehow meant to cross. Lily finishes her shift, her tired eyes scanning the empty diner. She's been so focused on her pain that she hasn't even noticed the man in the corner, the one who's been watching her all night. As she grabs her things and heads for the door, Nathaniel stands up, pushing his chair back with a soft scrape. For a moment, it seems like he might speak to her, but instead, he simply watches her walk out into the cold night. Outside, the cold air hits Lily's face, a sharp reminder of how small and insignificant her world feels at times. She hugs her jacket tighter around her shoulders and starts the walk home, her footsteps echoing on the empty sidewalk. Her mind is still a whirlwind of emotion, her heart heavy with the weight of everything that's gone wrong in her life. But as she walks, she can't shake the feeling that something is different tonight. There's a sense of unease, as if the world itself is holding its breath. She's halfway down the street when she hears a voice, a smooth, deep voice that she doesn't recognize. Excuse me. Lily freezes, her heart skipping a beat. She turns slowly, half expecting to see one of the regulars from the diner, but when she sees who it is, her breath catches in her throat. The man from the corner booth. The one she didn't even know was watching her. Nathaniel. His presence is imposing, the tall figure framed by the streetlights behind him. He's dressed impeccably, his dark suit catching the glow of the neon lights around them. He's a stark contrast to her worn-out jacket and faded jeans. For a moment, she wonders if she's imagining things. But then he takes a step forward, and she can see the intensity in his eyes. I couldn't help but notice something about you, Nathaniel says, his voice smooth but filled with an unspoken question. The way you care for others. It's rare. And it's inspiring. Lily blinks, unsure of how to respond. Is this a joke? Is he mocking her? She's used to the indifference of the world, not the attention of someone like him. But something in his gaze tells her that he's serious. That he's not just here to pass judgment, but to say something else, something deeper. Why are you? She starts, but the words trail off. What could she possibly say to someone like him? Nathaniel hesitates for a moment before speaking again. I'm Nathaniel Blackwood, he says, as if his name should mean something to her. I've been watching you. The words hang in the air between them, and for a brief moment, Lily feels a chill run down her spine. Does he know everything about her? The loneliness, the pain, the rejection? Does he understand what it means to feel invisible? But as he stands there, waiting for her response, she can't shake the feeling that this moment, this strange, unexpected encounter, is about to change everything. Lily wakes up the next morning with a sense of clarity she hasn't felt in a long time. The pain of rejection and betrayal still lingers, but there's a new feeling deep inside her, a quiet spark of hope. For the first time, she realizes that her worth isn't defined by the people who have hurt her. It never was. Her kindness, her ability to love, and her resilience are what make her valuable. She may still bear the scars of abandonment, but they no longer hold power over her. The woman who once felt invisible to the world now stands taller. The weight of past rejections feels lighter, almost like a distant echo. She is enough just as she is. Lily takes small steps toward healing. She begins to set boundaries, no longer accepting the pain others tried to impose on her. She decides to stop chasing after people who have never valued her. She starts spending more time on herself, reading, journaling, and reconnecting with her own desires. With each passing day, she feels stronger, more certain of herself. By the time evening comes, she walks to the diner with renewed energy. She is no longer merely going through the motions. She is present. As she enters, the familiar hum of the diner feels like a comfort. Her smile is no longer a facade. It's genuine. Her feet move with purpose. And there, in the corner booth, is Nathaniel. He's been there before, watching her from the shadows, but this time it's different. He's not hidden. His eyes meet hers directly, and something in his gaze makes her heart flutter. For a moment, everything around them fades away. She doesn't understand why, but something about him feels significant. Lily walks up to his booth, her confidence visible in the way she carries herself. Good evening, she says, her voice steady. Good evening, Lily, Nathaniel replies, his tone warm, as if they've known each other for years. I've been thinking about what you said the other night, about kindness not needing a reason. Lily is taken aback. She hadn't expected him to remember that conversation. You really remember that? I do, he says softly. It struck me. I think you're someone who deserves more than what life has given you. She looks at him, wary but intrigued. What are you offering? Nathaniel leans forward slightly. A chance. An opportunity. Not charity, but a real chance to change your life. Lily's mind races. She's never been one to accept help, especially from someone like him. I don't need charity, she says firmly. I need to carve my own path. Nathaniel nods, his expression unreadable but understanding. I know, but sometimes opportunities come from unexpected places. Lily pauses, considering his words. There's something in his gaze, something that resonates with her newfound strength. She doesn't know what it means yet, but she senses that Nathaniel might be offering more than just an opportunity. He might be offering her a way out of the life she's been stuck in. And as she stands there, the realization hits her. The twist of fate she's been waiting for might just be unfolding before her eyes. The air feels different now, as if everything around Lily is vibrating with possibility. Nathaniel's offer hangs in the air like a tempting but heavy weight. It's an offer to escape, to change her life with a flick of his hand, to leave behind the hurt and struggle she's endured. It's everything she's ever wanted, or so she thinks. But as she stands there, facing the man who has been quietly watching her, something shifts within her. For the first time in her life, she realizes that the power she's been searching for isn't in wealth or external validation, it's in herself. She's already saved herself. Her kindness, her courage, and her ability to keep going despite all the pain are what have carried her this far. She looks at Nathaniel, and in that moment, everything becomes clear. She doesn't need him to offer her a new life. She doesn't need his money or his power. What she needs is to honor the strength that's already within her. "Thank you," she says, her voice steady. "But no, I can't accept your offer." Nathaniel's brow furrows in surprise, as if he hadn't expected her to turn him down. "But Lily, this is a chance to have everything you've ever dreamed of. To leave all of this behind." "I don't need everything you're offering," she responds, her voice calm but firm. "I've already come this far on my own. I've learned that my worth isn't something someone can give me. It's something I have to find within myself." She pauses, taking a deep breath. "I don't want a life of comfort if it means losing who I am in the process. I've been broken, yes, but I've also learned how to heal. I want to continue on my own terms." Nathaniel sits back in his booth, his expression unreadable. He watches her for a long moment, as if weighing her words. And then, for the first time, he nods in understanding. Lily turns to walk away, but before she leaves the diner, she takes one last glance at Nathaniel. He hasn't moved, but his eyes are no longer filled with pity or curiosity. There's something new in his gaze, respect. She can feel it in the way he watches her leave. As she steps out into the night, the city around her seems to open up. For the first time in a long time, Lily feels free. She feels the weight of her past finally lifting. She knows that her journey is far from over, but now, she's the one in control. Behind her, Nathaniel sits quietly, still processing what just happened. He expected her to take the opportunity, to seize the life he offered. But Lily's choice has shaken him in ways he didn't anticipate. She's chosen herself over wealth, over comfort, over everything he could offer. And in doing so, she's taught him a lesson he didn't know he needed to learn. Lily walks away, her heart full, her head held high. She knows that true freedom doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. She has finally found her worth, and no one, not even a billionaire, can take that away from her. And so, as the night continues to unfold, Lily steps into a future she will build herself, with her own strength, her own courage, and her own heart leading the way.